Okay. Did I do that? Yay. Okay, so thank you so much for joining. I'm very, very excited. I totally over-prepared, and a few of you have told me that it was a little bit too intense and quick-paced. So I decided that I'm going to we'll go as at any pace, you know, as the group decides. And and meaning if you have questions and discussion comes up, we'll go with that after the first half hour. And worst comes to worst, which is not so bad, we'll just add another week to, it's supposed to be a 3-part. If, you know, if we need, we'll add another week to this. Okay, so, and I'm going to excuse myself that I'm going to be looking down because I couldn't figure out how to, I have to also follow along in the notes. Okay, so first I want to review. And as I was putting down a review, I realized that there are some things that I kind of took for granted because we always talk about it. But based on the questions that came up, I'm going to include it in the review and put it down. So here's a summary of what we did so far in part 1. Number 1 is we discussed that the work of changing our relationships, upgrading our relationships is really all about changing our own selves, because our beliefs plus other people's behaviors equals our experience, and from there comes our response. So if we want to change anything in our lives, especially our relationships, it's all about changing ourselves. And for many of us, that's hard to accept because we always want the other person to change. That's our big dream. But if we really want to, stop complaining and actually start changing, that's where the work is. We can't change other people's behavior, but we could change what we believe about ourselves. And with that, we change our responses and our experience. And really that's really changes everything. So that was number 1. Number 2 is the path of change. Okay, so very nice. So I want to change, but where do I begin? It's all about the path. The path that we're going on is about changing from being empowered by others, including ourselves and our circumstances, to really being empowered by Hashem. Hashem invests himself within us and empowers us to choose every single thing that we do, every single perspective that we take on. So the more we value Hashem, the more we'll value his empowerment of us. The more practical Hashem is, the more practical his empowerment will be for us. And we come to value Hashem more when we invest time thinking about Hashem's greatness and when we form a personal connection with those ideas that we're thinking about, with our thoughts about Hashem. And the more energy and time we invest in forming that personal connection with Hashem's presence, the more his presence will actually make a difference in our lives, the more personally relevant Hashem's presence will be to us. And with that, his empowerment of us will also be something real, something tangible, something that we could actually touch and experience. That was number 2. Number 3 is that we experience Hashem's empowerment of us in different ways. And we talked about three basic ways. 3 of the ways. There's probably more, but these are just 3 that I thought of. Number 1 is we're in touch with a reservoir of inner wealth that we can tap into and use in so many different ways and in all kinds of experiences that we have. It could give us courage, it could give us dignity, it could give us strength, it could give us lichtigkeit, it could give us patience, it could give us tolerance, racham, b'chanon, you know, whatever emotional energy we want, we can, any kind of inner wealth we could take. Somebody said, does it make me into an artist? It doesn't change our physical nature. It changes our personal qualities, our characteristics. It gives us we could be anyone we want by tapping into that inner, it's like a wealth of light that we can form and direct in any way that we want. So that was the first thing about Hashem's empowerment. And the second thing is, when we're in touch with Hashem's empowerment of us, we feel empowered to make choices. That's the bottom line. Because empowered to what? Empowered to eat, obviously. Empowered to climb a mountain? Not necessarily. Empowered to choose any behavior, to choose what we think, what we say, and what we do. And we recognize, from the place of empowerment, we recognize, you know, when you're holding something very precious and you recognize the preciousness of it, you invest energy in that. So when we recognize the preciousness of Hashem's empowerment of us, we hold it with reverence, and we take our choices very, very seriously. And we recognize that our choices matter more than the circumstances and other people's behavior in our lives. And the third way that we experience Hashem's empowerment of us, that we make it practical, is by actually making choices that are consistent and aligned with Hashem's reality, with Hashem's presence, because we recognize that He is the source of our empowerment, and it's like we want to stay plugged in to that source of our life support. Okay, so that was number 3. Now, it's very nice to know that we have this inner wealth, and Hashem empowers us to make choices, and we could choose to be aligned with Hashem's reality. All of us live by nature of being in this world, we live in a reality that denies and contradicts, and at the very least conceals Hashem's presence, and with that conceals Hashem's empowerment of us. So because we're human, we tend to move between feeling Hashem's empowerment and not feeling Hashem's empowerment, or to use other words, being empowered and being disempowered, between, you know, feeling that Hashem empowers us and acting on that, and then, or feeling like our power comes from people, places, and things, circumstances, conditions, other people's behavior, and then when those are not empowering in a revealed way, we kind of feel disempowered. So we move between feeling empowered, feeling Hashem's empowerment, and feeling disempowered. And when we feel empowered, obviously, we're going to show up to our lives exactly the way we want to, with our strengths, our best qualities, and our values shining forth. Our meaningful ideals, we're going to be the person we want to be, the best person, the best version of ourselves. And of course, when we feel disempowered, we're going to show up totally differently. We're going to be less than the person we really are. So at the heart of our disempowerment or our empowerment is really the power of choice. To feel empowered is at the bottom line, right? The bottom line of it is to make choices. And to be disempowered, stuck, feeling less than, feeling helpless, sorry for ourselves, or resentful and weak, emotionally weak, all of that, the bottom line of all of that is, therefore, I can't choose, because what impact will or I could choose, but it's not going to make such a difference, like we discussed last week, the 4 different approaches and the varying degrees to which we own and really hold on to and actively use our power of choice. Okay, then the last thing we said is that a problematic relationship, and like somebody said last week, a problematic relationship could also be with money, it could be conditions, it could be situations, it doesn't necessarily have to be people. A problematic relationship is when we feel that the person or the situation is holding back, they're withholding something that we really need or that we really want. And the pain of that loss, it's very real. It's very painful when we need something or we want something, and there's a person standing in front of us who's not giving it to us, whether it's love, belonging, understanding, validation, acceptance, trust, all the good stuff that we want, all the people goodness that we want, and that's really that we really deserve, if I could use that word, to give each other. When we don't get that, when we are belittled and ridiculed and put down and shamed and all that, rejected and all that stuff that we don't, the pain of the loss distracts us from the power of choice. And with that's what makes us feel stuck. So that's where we left off last week. And now we will, I don't know if I see chat. I'm gonna just put that on so that I see, I don't know how to do that. Okay, so someone's saying that this class is making a real difference in my life. At this point, it would be great to have smaller discussion groups break off with leaders afterwards. So today, a wonderful discussion group started. It was led by Javi Altein. And if anybody would like to join, originally it was going to be a small group, but I think she's open to having more people join. So message me 718-576-0338, or maybe I could post it, or maybe I'll post it at the end. Okay. Let's move on. Sorry. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is, because our empowerment is so important in our relationships and in everything in our lives, the next thing that we want to do is, now we're going to, tonight I'm really excited about it, because now all that, I feel like last week was kind of like the science, and now we're going to get back, now we're really getting into the actual work. So the first thing we want to do is upgrade our sense of unstoppable empowerment, right? Because Hashem's presence within us is an unstoppable, I didn't take off my pocketbook. It's an unstoppable force of light that empowers us. So we want to get in touch with that, because when we're in touch with Hashem's empowerment of us, we take charge of our behavior and we show up by choice, not by compulsion. And this reinforces our wholesome sense of empowerment. So how do we get in touch with Hashem's empowerment of us? I call it powering up. Powering up means, very simply, plug your mind and heart into Hashem's reality. You know, the Sefer HaTanya, the Biotiny, in his introduction, he says that this Sefer contains all the answers to all the questions. And if you ask anybody who studies Tanya, I think the one, if you would have to say, what's the most pronounced tool? What's the Biotiny strategy for wholesome, healthy, emotional wellness? And it's going to be this. It's going to be spend a certain, at least, he doesn't say a set amount of time, but spend time every single day, invest energy, focus your mind, invest yourself in thinking about Hashem's greatness and making those thoughts personal. It's as simple as that. And I think because it's so simple, it's the das part, right? Making it personal, integrating, absorbing, allowing our thoughts about Hashem's greatness to really make a personal difference in our lives. And as a tool, this sounds so simple. So it might be tempting to skip this and think, okay, very nice. Now let me just move on to the real tools, because this is kind of basic. So I want to say that please don't skip this, okay? Because this is really the heart of any other tool that you're going to use. I want to share a story about this. Yankel of Chelm comes to the big city, and while he was there, suddenly he was standing on Main Street when suddenly he heard a bell ringing. And as he hears the bell ringing, he sees people start running, and a line forms, and people are passing back buckets of water, and there was a fire down the block, and within minutes, everybody working together, the fire was put out. And all that was left was the smell of smoke, barely, because the fire had hardly had a chance to burn anything. It was put out so quickly. And Yankel was so excited, because he knew that in his town, fire starts and so much time could pass before it gets put out. And here there was this bell that magically caused the fire to get out in minutes or less. So he goes to the person who, the mayor of the city, and he gets the inside information. He's a real cheverman, and he goes to the person, the workman the laborer who actually created the bell, and he ordered the bell for the city of Chelm. Not only did he order the bell, but he also ordered the stand, the exact stand that it stood on. And he got a whole team of people to heave it onto this train, and he was very, very proud of himself as he wheeled it off the train and into the center of the city of Chelm, and he made a big announcement: the next time there's a fire, don't worry, I've got this under control. We are good. The fire's gonna be out within minutes. And probably many of you know the story. Sure enough, a couple of days later, it didn't have to wait long. There was a fire, and people started screaming, fire, fire. And Yankel says, don't worry, we're good. He starts ringing the bell and he says, don't worry, in seconds, something's gonna happen. This bell is gonna put out the fire. And he's waiting and he's ringing the bell and people are hyperventilating, nothing's happening, what's going on? Eventually the whole house burned down and people said, what happened? And he was, I don't know. They tricked me, they cheated me, this is a major scam. I ordered the exact bell, I saw it working in the other city, they cheated me, they lied to me, goes back to the other city. And of course he discovered that it wasn't the bell that put the fire out. It was the system. The bell wasn't the actual thing that put out the fire. The bell activated a network, a system of people doing specific actions that put out the fire. So really, there's another story that I was thinking about as I was thinking about tonight. Rabbi Levy Goldstein, many of us have been davening for him. He added a name. He was one of the first people who was struck, who became very ill with the coronavirus, like just around Purim time. And he was extremely ill, Rahman al-Islam, and we were really all davening for his life. And he Baruch Hashem, made a miraculous recovery. And he shared this story that took place during the time of his recovery. And it's still taking place. Because part of his recovery is that many of you know people who weren't active, who were unfortunately in a, shouldn't happen to anyone. Everyone should have a refuah shalema. Whoever's sick should be completely well. The schus of all the inspiration that everyone's doing and the growth that's taking place. Everyone should have a refuah shalema. So he was better, but now he needed to learn how to walk again, and it was excruciatingly painful for him to walk. So he said that his physical therapist was standing in front of him, and he said, "Get up." He's sitting in the wheelchair, and the physical therapist says, "Get up," and he says, "I can't. It was so painful. He couldn't move." And then he thought to himself, he envisioned, he's a Lubavitcher Chassid, so he envisioned the Lubavitcher Rebbe standing in front of him and asking him to come to him. And with that, all of a sudden, he stood up and he was able to move with unbelievable grace that the physical therapist was blown away. He was shocked. Now, if you would write down the words and exactly the picture of anybody would take a picture of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, put it in front of the person who's struggling with pain in their recovery work and say, okay, just look at the picture of the Rebbe and think about that the Rebbe wants you to stand up, and is it going to work? Are they going to be able to stand up? For sure not. Because of this person's work over so many years, that the Rebbe means something to him. That when the Rebbe tells him something, he takes it to heart, he takes it seriously. He's energized by it, and he invests energy in fulfilling it. So now, that same thought triggered a whole network of neurons, of energy firing off in his system that physically gave him the energy to get up and walk with ease that shocked his physical therapist. So why am I sharing this story? Because when we spend time thinking about Hashem, right, what we're doing, we're setting up that network of people passing buckets to each other within our own system. We're setting up that network of connections between our mind and our heart and our bodies, so that when we're in a disempowering situation, that's objectively disempowering, when we're facing rejection, when we're facing dismissal, when somebody belittles us, when somebody puts us down, when objectively speaking, anybody around us would say, "Oh my, we feel sorry for you," right? At that moment, by thinking about Hashem and his empowerment of us, to the extent that we invested energy and formed a personal connection, that's the system that we're going to activate when we just think about Hashem's empowerment of us. so that when we ring the bell, we'll set off a system that will enable to help us and put the fires of our disempowerment out and really rescue us from disempowerment. So my point in sharing those stories was really a sales pitch for this particular thing, power up every single day. It sounds so simple as to be unimportant, but it's life altering. Over time, this is the one thing in your life that will make a difference. Somebody asked me, how's my mother doing? My father was recently nifter, and obviously my mother is in tremendous pain. We all are in tremendous pain, but for my mother, it's the biggest loss. And somebody said, does she have tools, whatever? I said, she really believes in Hashem. She really does. She doesn't, for her, it's like she heard this story. I heard this story actually of Rabbi Levy Goldstein. I heard it from her because she had physical therapy one day. And she said, today my physical therapy was entirely different. I called up Mrs. Goldstein and I thanked her because she basically copied Rabbi Goldstein and it helped her climb up stairs that were very difficult to climb. So how did I get distracted into that? I'm saying is because you don't need tools, really. You need God. Tools are to enable us to get to God. But if we have Hashem for real, the more we do this work, all the rest of the tools become commentary. They become like, okay, the details. It's almost like you need the tools when you're blindfolded. But when you actually see Hashem in a tangible way in your life, you see the path. Okay, I think that was enough on that. So forming a personal connection with Hashem is the foundation of all the goodness we want in our lives. It's His blessing. It's the foundation of the goodness, His blessings that are beyond our control, like Gesund, Parnasa, Nachas, all, Shidduchim. It's really, that's the source of those kind of blessings, and it's the blessings for the goodness, the emotional goodness, and the emotional wealth. So when you I just want to point out one thing. When you take time to think about Hashem's greatness, stretch that a little bit, and also think about and absorb the enormity, the awesomeness of His presence within you. Okay, so now we're going to do something that actually we haven't done in the past, last time, whenever I put out a question, they were personal. This is just going to be interesting. Where in an ordinary day can a person make time to power up? I would love to hear your ideas. I'll tell you some ideas that people have said in the past. Some people have said they pause at the mezuzah. It's every time you say a bracha, you could power up. Somebody's asking if I would prefer questions via chat or can we ask out loud? Honestly, if you can put questions by chat, that would be easier because then the recording, we don't have to worry about privacy. Like it's easy. It's easier. If you can, where in an ordinary day can a person make time to power up? Even for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. Okay, so people are sharing wonderful ideas. We could dive in. Power up means plug your mind and heart into Hashem's reality. It's that simple. Power up. Plug, just like you power up a phone, you power up your computer by plugging it into the source of energy. We can power up ourselves by plugging our minds and hearts into Hashem's reality. So before I somebody wrote, Abigail said, before I daven, I think about Hashem. Before I pray, I think about Hashem. This is beautiful. Look at nature. The Rambam says that when you look at nature, that's how you develop Yirah Shamayim. Look at nature. And she also said the very start of Shemona Esrei is connecting to Hashem. Tanya and Chitas, for many people, saying daily Chitas, which is a daily portion of Chumash, a little bit of Tanya, the daily Tanya, and the daily Tehillim every day. That's like the spiritual vitamins. Throughout the Lubavitcher Rebbe wrote many thousands of letters, and at the bottom of many of them, especially in the early years, he would write, surely you also say the daily chitas, and that was to women, to men, to teenagers. So even if you say the daily Tehillim every day, it's spiritual vitamins. I started to, somebody said I can, when I take a deep breath, take a deep breath and power up. That's just thinking about the fact that Hashem is allowing you to breathe. Somebody done it. I started taking a deep breath and imagining Hashem breathing into me, and then it spreads to every part of my body. And when I breathe out, it releases the otherness. Wow, done it. Thank you. That's beautiful. This evening, I went onto the porch for something. Heidi. Hi, Heidi. I don't see you, but hi. I know you. I went onto the porch for something. The air was cool and refreshing. I just stood there and took several deep breaths. Thank you, Hashem, for the wonderful weather. I was thinking the same thing while walking here. Are connection and awareness synonymous? I'm learning the 6 constant mitzvahs, which, as I understand, are 6 awarenesses of Hashem. Awareness is connection. I do think that awareness and connection is synonymous, yes. Awareness is a form of connection. You could have action that's also a connection. Learning, saying Biotiny every single day and just thinking about the words for those young mommies who really don't have time. Just Biotiny and Shema every single day. Shemana Esrei. That picture of the sun coming up with your words from page 270 that I sent you help. Okay, if anybody wants that picture, thank you. Thank you, Beth. And Shema at night. Okay, so those are great examples. And now I want to ask you a question. You just heard a bunch of little ways that each one of those ideas were so, like, they don't take more than a few seconds. It's just a mindfulness, an awareness, an intentional thought. So what are you going to do? Take 3 seconds to think about it and actually write it down on your paper. What are you going to do to increase your power, your empowerment? And as we're talking about, in what way will you increase your empowerment, your investment of time and energy in powering up? Choose one thing that you're going to do this week. You know, I want to, on the thought of powering up, I just want to share one other thought on this. Let's talk about powering down, okay? Just like plugging our mind into thoughts about Hashem and his greatness and his presence within us, it powers us up. It gives us empowerment. So too, when we plug our mind and heart into otherness, it does have an impact on us also, and it powers us down. In the first printing of the book, there was a printing mistake. You know, remember that story of Rabbi Meir of Premershlan? He said, when you're connected above, you don't fall below. Remember, he was walking up the mountain in the ice, and he said, and he didn't fall, and they asked him, how do you not fall? He said, because when you're connected above, you don't fall below. So in the Yiddish, in the first printing of the book, it says a mistake. But it's an interesting mistake. It says, if you're connected below, you don't fall above. So it was a mistake, and we corrected it for the second printing, but it's so true. If we're connected, if you're holding on to otherness, it's so hard to be inspired. It's so hard to be motivated. It's so hard to be uplifted and energized and empowered by Hashem's reality if we keep bombarding our minds with stories and news articles and activities that really keep us into otherness. So I'm not saying to never read the news or to never read something that denies Hashem's reality, because none of us are, I don't think any of us are up to there. I wish I would be that kind of holy, but I think that we should invest at least the same amount of time in whatever reading material, whatever videos, whatever conversations we have. We should have at least, you know, somebody said, Javier was the one who actually said this. She said when she found herself reading the news too many times, because I feel like with the virus, it became addictive. People started checking the news 4 times a day, 6 times a day, 7 times a day. And the news websites are designed to make us click again. They're designed that way. So she said she developed this habit or this rule for herself that before she reads the news, she says a kapitel Tehillim. So that's great. Just let's make sure that, just be aware that we can't stay inspired if we bombard our minds and hearts with especially with otherness, with stories and news articles and videos that completely deny or contradict, or at the very least conceal Hashem's presence. It has to have an impact on us, especially if we're spiritually sensitive people. Okay, let's move on. I just want to see if there's any other questions. Hi. Okay, somebody said, I just want to share these because they're so nice. Another example of a few little more examples of how to empower ourselves, how to really plug into Hashem's reality. When nursing, giving life to my child, I think about that Hashem gives life to me. Wow, that's beautiful for a nursing mother. Every time you're nursing, to really realize that Hashem is giving life to us in the same way that we're feeding our child. When something positive happens, I stop and thank Hashem. Just being aware of Hashem's blessings is pretty amazing. If people and things are, okay, when we're plugged into otherness, we're plugged into something finite. When we're plugged into Hashem, we are plugging into the infinite. Yes, so when we're thinking about Hashem, it's really, that's why Hashem's empowerment is unstoppable. Okay, if people and things are occupying our mind and not paying rent, need to be evicted, I don't know how that is that's not an empowering thought. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Okay, so now all that was about proactively connecting to our source of empowerment, really powering ourselves up. Now, we said last week that there's a few things in our lives, in our reality, that actually get in the way of our sense of empowerment. It's like, these things are obstacles that even if we are empowered, even if we start the day feeling very empowered and we're motivated and we're focused on staying within the reality of Hashem's empowerment and we're making choices, all of a sudden we're going to get thrown off by 4 different things. So let's talk about the first of them, and we'll see. I put in the notes about all 4, but there's a page on each of them. Let's see how far we go. Okay, let's take a look at the leaks through which we lose our sense of Hashem's empowerment. Okay, where is your sense of empowerment getting lost? It might be in your beliefs, it might be in pain, it might be in a habit, or it might be in fears. We're going to go in, and we're going to speak about each one of those things. And now, first we'll talk about pain. A lot of people think that pain is a contradiction to emunah and bitachon. If I really believe in Hashem, I wouldn't be pained. I would be happy, tra-la-la. I wouldn't be sad. I would never feel sadness. And there's a certain element of shame in feeling pain and sadness. And so we kind of distract ourselves from it. We tell ourselves it doesn't exist until it actually does. I believe that even if someone really believes and trusts in Hashem, I don't think it's my belief. I think this is a fact. Even for somebody who really trusts in Hashem, and that's why there's a concept of Shiva, that's why there is a concept of pain in halacha. It exists for real. It's not just a figment of an imagination of a person who doesn't believe in Hashem. Pain is real. So even if you fully, strongly believe and trust in Hashem, you will still feel pained when you experience a hurtful reality, a hurtful condition, or a loss. You're still going to feel pain. So the thing where we have a choice, the thing where there's room for negotiation is misery. Pain and misery are very similar, but it's good to understand that in the book we go into this at length. And now I want to focus on one specific thing. But just a quick review, pain is the ouch. It's that physical sensation, the hurt of a loss, or the pain of, and I think everything is a loss, because if I wanted kindness and I got rejection, that's also a loss. It's a loss of my dream, my hope. So pain is that sensation of like, that hurt. It's that ouch. The hurt or the loss. Misery is the belief that because of this hurt or because of this loss, I cannot be the person I want to be. And the line between pain and misery is very, very thin. And we tend to avoid dealing with pain. And I think it's because we're too busy, or we're too angry, or we're distracted. You know, I'm not hurt. I'm not pain. I'm just angry, right? Really, that's a cover-up, right? They say anger is a second degree emotion, a second-hand emotion. When we're in pain and we don't deal with it, it turns into misery. Because when I'm in pain and I deal with it from the place of empowerment, I make choices about it. So I'm still empowered, because even though I'm in pain, I'm in touch with the fact that even though I'm in pain, I am still empowered to choose. But if I don't deal with my pain and the pain deals with me, I end up feeling like I'm stuck and I have no choice. Thank you. And I have no choice about what's going on. And I'm going to find myself miserable and disempowered if I don't deal with pain. I could sometimes have a very busy day and I'm like, something painful happened in the morning, something upsetting. It doesn't have to be a major event. It's just something, you know, it could be a little interaction that's like, ouch, right? And I'll be like, whole day, I'm like, I'm too busy to deal with it, right? Because you're busy. But then I take 2 minutes to just like process, to validate I was hurt, and to be able to pick it up so that I could put it down. And it's liberating. It makes such a big difference. So how do we deal with pain in a nutshell? Because obviously this in itself could be an hour-long or 2-hour-long discussion. But just in a nutshell, how do we deal with pain? Number one, acknowledge that it's there. Just say, I'm hurt, I'm sad, I'm in pain because blank. I made another sentence there because maybe it's easier for this. I wanted X and I got Y. I wanted kindness, I got rejection. I wanted understanding, I got mistrust, I got misunderstanding. I wanted to be heard, instead I was ignored. I wanted to be accepted, instead I was turned away, was turned down. I was belittled. I wanted to be hugged and I was pushed away. So it's good to just acknowledge that. Just giving it a name already gives us that power to be able to put it down. And I think the next thing is, and this I will say, it's not specifically, and I try to be very specific to, very honest to Tanya and to things that I learned directly. But so this is not this particular thing that I'm going to say, but I do feel like in Tanya, the Biotiny writes in language of like miyad kisha, like as soon as you gain awareness, like he uses that language. As soon as your mind becomes aware, you're going to do that. So, and he talks about in another parak in Tanya, I don't remember which parak, like a person should say this to their heart, right? Say this to your heart. So he's giving us, like the Biotiny understands that we could have a conversation with our heart. So I'm stretching that a little. Again, I didn't see this directly, but I'm telling you in the context that I did see it. So once you notice, okay, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling sad because I wanted this, I got that, accept it and respond to it as if you would, you know, I think that many of us have an easier time. Like if you see, imagine you see a little 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a teenager, or whatever age you want, a week, or even just a friend sitting in the corner of the room or sitting at the table and just like being really in pain. Being really in pain. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do if it's a little child, especially? Somehow with younger children, we're more comfortable with just exhibiting more exuberant, we're more comfortable exhibiting exuberant emotion, right? So we would go over, embrace the child, wipe away their tears, comfort them, reassure them, hold them, just be there for them. Give them strength, give them love, give them encouragement. Imagine if you could do that for yourself. Let your mind talk to your heart. Let your mind be your adult self and talk to your emotional brokenness that feels so little, that feels rejected, that feels sad, that feels pained. and do that. And I want to say, and I think it's very, very helpful. I can tell you that that's my go-to. That's what I do for myself. And I'm sure you've seen something else. I want to just add to this. Why are we doing this? Why am I not saying go talk to another person? And you could talk to another person. Sometimes it's important to talk to another person. It's also helpful in a different way. But why am I saying this? Is because as long as the spotlight in your mind is turned inward to your own emotions, to your own feelings, and to your own thoughts, that's when you're in your own space. And in your own space, you're empowered to choose. So it's very, very helpful to turn the spotlight inward. And I want to give you an example of what the opposite of this is. I'm sure many of you have seen this. Okay, I've seen this, where a kid gets hurt and the adult, the parent or the big brother or the big sister, let's say the kid bumps into the couch, right? So, and the kid's crying, they made a boo-boo, wah, 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 right? So the adult picks up the kid and says, oh, you bumped into the couch? Dada couch. And they start patching the couch. You hurt, you made a boo-boo on my little Maidala Dada couch, right? That's like ridiculous, because what we're showing the kid, and we're, when we do that, it's like you have to hurt somebody else in order to feel better for yourself. So sometimes I know for myself, when I'm not doing pain, when I find myself saying, that's disgusting, that was disgraceful, that was horrible what that person did, that was, I can't believe, whatever, when I'm doing that, that's misery, because taking ownership of our choices is a full-time job. It requires 100% of our attention and our focus. And if we are even giving 1% of attention on somebody else's bad choices over which we have no control, that's every inch is taking away from our own responsibility to our own work, to our own choices and our own commitment. It's a full-time job taking care of our choices. So whenever we're distracted from our choices, it comes at the expense of what we really need to do. And it's destructive. So obviously, yes, I was rejected. I was hurt. I feel like that was really mean, but try not in your effort to comfort yourself. Don't put the other person down. Just pick yourself up. Okay. Then the next thing is, so what can you say? I just put these questions out because sometimes it's helpful to ask yourself very specific questions. What can you say to validate, to comfort, and to reassure that broken part of you, that pain? What can you say to yourself that will really help you? And the next thing is very, very important. How will you demonstrate your caring? Because words are not enough. How are you going to demonstrate your caring? What's a nice thing you could do for yourself that when it's a stranger, you don't know how to make them feel better? You can give a little kid a sticker to show them that you love them. You can give them a hug, but you don't know what this person will appreciate, but you know what you appreciate. And there's a very big difference between eating a plate of salad on a china plate, eating a bowl of salad in china dishes, or eating a tub of ice cream as a distraction, or buying yourself a little something just as an I love you present. Somebody once told me that she literally bought herself a box of chocolates. She wrapped it. She wrote a note to herself. She signed it. Okay, that was her way, and it really was meaningful to her. Sharing an extreme example, but I hope you get what I'm saying. So do something, demonstrate one act of caring just to show, give yourself a hug. Do something nice for yourself. Be kind to yourself in some way, just to show you're caring. Okay, and when you do this, I wrote this on the worksheet, note, watch out for victim language. Okay, I said this. No bashing the other person or the situation. Keep the spotlight focused inward. For example, instead of saying the situation stinks, it's horrible, it's disgusting, whatever, just say, I'm having a really hard time. This is really hard for me. I really need, I wish I had more energy. I wish, and just validate that. It's different from like saying bashing the situation or the person. And then comes question number 3, which is a very biggie. What message will you hear in Hashem's empowerment of you? I would love if somebody can give me an example of something that you've said to yourself. What message do you hear in a moment of pain, in a moment of difficulty, in a moment of sadness or sorrow, of tears? What message do you hear in Hashem's empowerment of you? And another question is, how will Hashem's empowerment of you help you move forward? How will Hashem's empowerment of you help you move forward? I think this is a very important question to ask ourselves, because asking yourself a question sets the wheels of your mind turning, and you will come up with an answer. So if you ask yourself, how will Hashem's empowerment of me help me? You're going to come up with an answer. It's going to be one thing or another. That's a very different question than saying, will Hashem's empowerment of me help me? You hear the difference? If I say, will Hashem's empowerment of me help me? That's like I could say yes or I could say no. But if I say, I'm going to take it for granted, Hashem's empowerment of me is going to make a difference. It is going to help me. The question is how? Where am I going to find it? Is it going to be courage to take the next step forward, to do this day with a smile, even though my heart is so hurt? Is it going to be the dignity that I need to face reality? Is it going to be, let me see what other people, okay. Somebody said, I would acknowledge the pain. I hope it's being recorded. Yeah, somebody, okay. This too will pass. Gam ze yavar is a very, very, very helpful line. Thank you for sharing that, Nora. Abigail says, Hashem runs the world. Hashem is good. This must be a good experience. Even if I don't see the goodness, something good is going to be, I'm going to see the good one day. So that's just very reassuring. There's something good about this. Although for some people that wouldn't be reassuring. Don't tell me it's good when it feels so bad. Okay. When I'm driving along, Mora Dubov, hi. When I'm driving a long drive and it gets too much for some reason, I just say, Hashem, you're driving now. And I know that I'm holding the wheel, but it's really Hashem driving for me. And that's really with everything in life. My friend Chaya Teldin once had a beautiful line. She had an overflow of guests. She said, Hashem, I'll serve, you be the caterer, I'll serve the food. So that's another way of saying what you just said. You're driving, I'll hold the wheel, but you drive. So these are beautiful examples of how we can actually make Hashem's empowerment of us real. Somebody else wrote, Hashem recreates the world every second. Hashem is good and everything is good. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Henya. And Beth, I would ask Hashem, how can I bring Hashem, how can I bring your light into this situation? So beautiful, Beth. Thank you. How can I bring Hashem's light into the situation? Remembering that if Hashem brought you to it, Hashem will get you through it. Thank you. I love that. If Hashem brought you to it, he'll get you through it. Beautiful. How can I make sure my neshama is driving, not my animal soul? Okay, that question we will. If you're going up and you're connecting, it's your neshama. If you're disconnecting, it's your nefesh habahamis and your animal soul or your yetzer hara. That's the most simple way. Going up, powering up, connecting, moving forward in your life, shining, it's your neshama. Disconnecting, disempowering, not holding on to your power of choice, that's the nefesh habahamis. Okay, that was a question on the side. We're going back to how the messages that people hear in Hashem's empowerment. I remind myself that Hashem allowed this to happen as hard as it is. And Hashem allowed it to happen as hard as it is. There's something good in this. Just wondering, how can we get access to the worksheet recordings WhatsApp group? Text to or message to 718-576-0338. Okay, let's do the next page. We're moving faster than I thought. Okay, I'm glad. Okay, this is really exciting, the next page. Okay, we're going to talk about how our beliefs get in the way of owning our empowerment. And let's remember what empowerment means. Empowerment means Hashem is at this moment investing himself within us. That's our neshama. But even it's not just a passive force in our lives. Hashem is an active Elokeinu, an active flow of kaichacha v'chayusecha, your kayach, your energy, your empowerment, and your chayus, your life force. This minute and every minute that you're alive, there's a flow of unstoppable light of Hashem, from Hashem, directly, streaming live, directly to you from Hashem. And with that comes your ability, your empowerment to choose everything that you think, everything that you say, and everything that you do. And no circumstances or conditions or people could make things difficult, but nobody could take away your empowerment of Hashem to show up in the way that you want, with your neshama shining in your full glory. Nobody could take that away. So we just talked about how pain could get in our way of being able to show up, because we all have pain in our lives. There's nobody, as long as we're in Gullus, there's a tremendous amount of pain. And people have ongoing pain, right? So that's one thing that, okay, we have to deal with our pain. The next big thing that gets in our way is our beliefs. Each of us has beliefs that gets in our way of owning our sense of empowerment from Hashem. In Tanya, Perek Yud Beis and Yud Gimel, and other prakim, but mainly Perek Yud Beis and Yud Gimel, the Baal Tanya shares some amazing, mind-blowing tools for how to be a Beinoni. And a Beinoni is somebody who always shows up with their neshama shining forth. That's a Beinoni. A Beinoni is a person who is 100% aligned with Hashem's emes in thought, speech, and in action. So that's a Beinoni. And in chapters 12 and 13, those are the biggest set of tools for how to be a Beinoni. By the way, I don't know if I could do this, but I'm going to try to post on the group chat and the WhatsApp thing a recording of the Tanya. We just learned this in Tanya. That's why I'm so excited about it. We just learned Tanya chapters 12 and 13 a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to try to send you the recordings of those chapters, because what I'm going to say is like a summary, a little bit of it. But if you want to hear it more in depth, I'll try to send you a recording of that. Okay, so Mayach Shalat al Halev means, what the Baal Tanya says is that if a behavior, he says, look, a heart is very, very strong. When a heart is triggered in any direction, and our heart will be triggered and pulled, even a Beinoni, your heart will get pulled in all kinds of different places. You'll get pulled to resentment, to misery, to blame, to guilt, to shame, to feeling sorry for yourself, to feeling stuck. Your heart is going to feel like that, right? It's gonna happen. But he says, as much as your heart is so strong, only your mind can give your body permission to act. Only your mind can give your body permission to act. That means Mayach Shalit al Halev. Mayach has that dominating power over the heart. As much as the heart craves to indulge in hours of self-pity and self-destruction, if it's unthinkable in your mind, it's going to be unsinkable in your behavior. It's not going to happen in your behavior. It's not going to show up. But when a behavior is acceptable in our minds, it's going to pop up in our action. Okay. Losing control. Any form of disempowering behavior, including behavior, and by the way, in the Baal Tanya's book, behavior in our minds is just as much a choice. We have full choice of our where we're focusing the spotlight in our minds. We don't have choice about the thoughts that pop into our minds, but we have thoughts, we have choice about what we choose to entertain. So he says, according to this, the way I try to learn Tanya is that, whoops, my thing just went off. Okay, the way I try to learn Tanya is when the Baal Tanya says a principle, a fact, an idea, I try to think, okay, so what is that a rule? in? Like, what does that look like in a rule? So for example, like, this is not in the Tanya, but like, let's say somebody says that when it rains, you get wet, but when you're holding an umbrella would keep you dry, right? If you're under an umbrella, you will stay dry in the rain. So that fact as a tool would be, if you want to stay dry in the rain, take an umbrella, open it up, hold it over your head, and stand under it, and then you'll be dry. You hear that? So a fact could also, every kind of fact could be used as a tool. So the fact is that our mind dominates our heart. That means if it's unthinkable in our mind, we cannot engage in a behavior unless our minds give us permission to engage in that behavior. We won't think about it. We won't do it. We won't say it. People say, what do you mean? I can't help it. It just popped out. It's not true. In our minds, we gave ourselves permission. We gave ourselves permission to do that behavior. So when we lose control, last week somebody was saying about what if I'm losing control in terms of being not nice to somebody else? Because we're talking about losing control in terms of feeling stuck. But what if I'm losing control? What if I yell at people? What if I lash out at people? What if I'm obnoxious because I feel out of control? What if when my house is a mess, she didn't say this in these words, but I'm thinking about how I lose control, right? My house is a mess and it's hot, and I suddenly kind of have a license to be rude and obnoxious and impatient, right? It's like a license. We give ourselves a license to do all kinds of things under different kinds of conditions. On some level, any kind of behavior that we engage in, we do it because on some level it makes sense to us. It makes sense to us. We're giving it credence on some level. This is too long. I'm trying to think. We're not going to finish this today, but let's go to the bottom of the page. We're on page, it says, I don't know what page number it is, but it's this page, the Marshal Tahalev page. It says on the top number 12. Okay. Let's do the questions of it, and then next week we'll discuss it a little bit more. Okay, because I know that we're going to have a lot of questions on this, and I want to give it some more time. We have a couple more minutes, so let's do a little bit more of this. And don't worry if it seems too intense. We'll hash it out. We'll hash this out a little bit more next week. Okay, think about the last time you felt stuck. Think about the last time you felt sorry for yourself. Could have been this week. It could have been yesterday. It could have been a month ago. But I would like if you could come up with an incident that happened in the last couple of days or the last week. You felt stuck, or you felt sorry for yourself, or you felt like you were out of control. You felt that you were less than the person you really are. Okay? If somebody in that moment, or if you can ask yourself, reflect back at that time and ask yourself, what was going on? What was going on for you? What caused you to do that? What's making you feel this way, or what's making you do this behavior? What would you say? Somebody wants to privately tell me an example. I'm just going to make up my own example. Oh, I actually put examples here. Yes. Okay. Example 1 would be, I am yelling, I am being short-tempered because I am tired and hungry. So that's one example, right? I'm yelling because I'm tired and hungry. So now that answer right there, and it's so good to put it on a line and put it in writing, because right there, I am yelling because I am tired and hungry, reflects, you believe, that means you believe, right? It's like I once asked one of my kids, I was actually, this is very, very funny. I was in a first grade classroom, and the teacher bent down, and a kid who was standing, it was a circle, the kids were sitting in a circle, and the teacher bent down to pick something up, and the kid who was right behind her, she potched the teacher in the place where she sits, but she wasn't sitting, right? She was bending down. And the teacher, a young girl, sent the kid out. So the kid comes out, and I asked her, I was on call then. I am not currently a principal. I actually am the director of our preschool. But in this case, she was a first grader, and I said, why did you hit your teacher? I was almost laughing because she's such a cute kid. I was like, why did you hit your teacher? Without batting an eyelash, she said, because she bended. She bended, so I hit her. In this child's mind, right? If someone bends, you patch them. That's a normal behavior. That's like excusable. That's like understandable. So that was an extreme example. Obviously, just because somebody bends doesn't mean you have to hit them. Doesn't mean you have a right or a license to hit them just because they bend. So, but your rule right there, I was rude and obnoxious because I was tired. I was in a bad mood because somebody said something disgusting to me. My heart was racing. I was driving like a maniac because of a text message that I got. I'm making up examples, but you know what I mean? What I just said, if it makes sense to me, I will continue doing it. And people say, I did it yesterday, I'm probably going to do it again. Exactly. You're not going to do it again because you're going to do it again. You're going to do it again because you think you're going to do it again. Because mayach shalat al halev means that if it's unthinkable, if there's no room for it in my mind, there will be no room for it in my behavior. But if there is an acceptability in my mind, if even I give it a little bit of credence in my mind, it's going to show up in my behavior. So let's say, going back to that example of somebody who's yelling because they're hot and tired and hungry. So what does this tell? So yeah, being tired and hungry is not ideal, okay? But I want to ask you a question. If you would walk into a room and you would see a guy pick up a case of seltzer, okay, and start throwing it one by one, smash, boom, crash, every bottle of seltzer crash against the wall and it explodes in a rain of seltzer on everybody and everything. What would you say about that person? Just say it. I could see you. What would you say? Huh? I don't hear you. But I could see you, so if you could mouth it. Would you say he's crazy? He's nuts? He's got an anger management problem? Yes? Are we in agreement here? Nuts! What do you mean? You got angry, so you throw bottles of seltzer? What are you, crazy or something? Right? But to me, getting angry, yelling at somebody, that's already normal. That's normal. Why is that crazy? What do you mean? That's what my mother did. That's what my grandmother did. That's what my father did. That's what my grandfather did. What do you mean? That's my normal, right? So we each have, they say what's normal? Normal is whatever you're used to, whatever is your comfort zone, whatever you do, that's normal. What somebody else does, that's extreme, right? Somebody else is more from than you. They have a hiddur mitzvah. They're fanatic. Less from there. They're modern. They're not even. They're irreligious. They're just free thinking. They're not. But you're normal, right? So why is that the guy who's angry, so he throws bottles of seltzer? You say he's nuts. I would agree with you, right? But why are we saying? Why is it okay if I'm angry to yell at somebody? It's only normal because we think it's normal. And because we think it's normal, that's why we do it. And by the same token, the next example, I'm feeling stuck because that person is being mean to me. That's a normal way of thinking. Now, let me ask you something. If you hear a story where somebody sent a nasty text message to their friend, and the friend went, Rahman al-Islam, Chas v'Shalom, and shot herself to death, that would be a tragedy. I think we would all agree that would be tragic. And we would say that person was not well. To shoot herself, it's neurotic. It's ill. It's terrible. It's not a healthy behavior at all. But what does this show us? We realize that to shoot a life, to kill a life is crazy. It's a tragedy. But okay, if I'm in a bad mood for an hour, who's gonna care? Why is it such a tragedy? If you hear, I once heard a talk by the Lubavitcher Rabbi. He was talking about wasting time. He was talking about every minute with such passion, how every minute is so precious, a gift of life. Hashem is giving you an hour. Hashem is giving you a minute. It's so precious. It's never going to come back. Use it, take it, make something with it. Don't let it just pass. So you hear his passion for every minute. And I think it's because there's such a powerful connection and awareness of Hashem, such a powerful appreciation of life, such a powerful appreciation, a deep appreciation of the Jewish neshama, of the Jewish soul. So of course, a minute of a Jewish soul here on earth, that's like priceless. So think about it. If we valued and respected our lives so much that we could never even give away an hour of our lives to disempowerment, to feeling stuck, what would change in our behavior? What would change? Would we get down and out when somebody insults us? Would we allow ourselves to wallow in misery and resentment and self-pity for 3 hours? Or would we really work hard to try to get out of it? And at that, I want to just say something very important. You know, anything that has power is going to be hijacked by the Yetzer Hara. And I'm very concerned that nobody here should, my dear, sweet, sensitive, spiritually sensitive sisters, I can tell you from myself, my own experience, that sometimes when you learn something, your Yetzer Hara will hijack it and will try to use it against you. Because now, not only you feel bad and disempowered and you feel stuck, now you're an idiot for feeling stuck because you're not supposed to be feeling stuck. You're not supposed to be feeling disempowered, right? Because you even went to a workshop, and in the workshop you learned that you're not supposed to be feeling disempowered. So I just want to put it out there that if you're feeling bad about feeling bad, that's your Yetzer Hara. Welcome it, give it a hug, give yourself a hug, and just say, I'm okay. This is exactly where Hashem wants me to be, and I'm a work in progress, and I'm really good, and Hashem loves me wherever I am, however I am, here and now, and it's really good, and it's okay, and I don't have to feel bad about being sad, and I'm a beautiful person just for trying. So don't use this as a negative thing. But if you want it to help you, recognize that it takes work. And the work begins really, like we said before, in the beginning of our time together today, it's really about spending time thinking about Hashem's greatness until it absorbs your system. Say Adon Olam every single day with the English translation. There's nothing like it in the world. Say Birchos Shema, Sukkah de Zimra. Choose a different part of davening every day that you read in the English Siddur and you really think about, and let it enter your mind. Okay, I have so much more to share, and we're going to be back in Hashem next week, and we're going to continue with these same notes. So you don't even have to have the hassle of preparing, printing it out and making sure you have it. We're good to go. And I hope that we make it a wonderful week. It's 3 weeks, and it's a very big schus for me to be here with you, rebuilding our own Beis HaMikdash, because what we're doing is really making Hashem real, and that's what Mashiach is all about. Mashiach is all about transforming our personal realities, transforming the whole world into a place that is fully aware of Hashem's presence. So us doing this is actively rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash. May we be zeichet to see it revealed here and now, and we'll meet next week in the Beis HaMikdash. We'll be so happy to meet in person and not on Zoom, even from as far as Australia. So Australia, have a great day. Hi, have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. It's been real. I want to say the number again, because a few people have texted it, 718-576-0338. Does anybody know how to attach the worksheets to this chat? Because I don't know how. But if you know how, that would be awesome. I'm going to unmute everybody. Please, Hashem, help me figure out how. 1 second. How do I do this? Yes, yeah, I unmuted. So if anybody, now you could unmute yourself if you want to share or talk. I'm going to stop the recording. So now we could schmooze, we could verbringen for a few minutes. I get to Nacht. 1 second. Yes.